Hello, and welcome to Illinois State University. Thank you for watching our webcast about off-campus living for international students. We have designed this webcast specifically for you in hopes of answering all of your off-campus questions. The first piece of information that we would like to inform you of is the Illinois State University housing policy. The university requires students to live on campus their first 2 years out of high school. So generally, you will hear students who are freshmen and sophomores living on campus, while juniors and seniors are living off campus. Your high school graduation date will dictate if you are still required to live on or off campus. It is important to contact university housing to ensure that you are eligible to live off campus, or to answer any of your on-campus living questions. We do have a floor specifically for international students in Manchester Hall. Make sure you know you can live off campus before signing a lease. This could be a very costly situation if you have to pay for both an apartment off campus and housing in a residence hall. A great involvement opportunity for you at Illinois State University is International House. International House is a community for international students created by the Office of International Studies and Programs. The International House Lounge is located between Manchester and Hewitt Halls. Getting involved with International House will provide you opportunities to develop friendships during your time at Illinois State. This service will provide greater opportunities to experience American life, increase your understanding of the United States, and fulfill your educational and professional goals. Please contact Matt Schwab, the coordinator of the International House, for more information. You can be involved with the International House even if you live off campus. As we get into this webcast, our first message to you is the importance of not rushing the process. We want to make sure you are making an informed decision, and we will help you do that. When you get accepted into Illinois State University, you might start receiving emails from different apartment complexes encouraging you to sign quickly. Remember not to sign until you are fully comfortable and are educated about the residence you will want to be living in. There is no reason a student needs to sign an apartment by October 1st if you are not ready. Certainly, if you are prepared to and have thought about all the details that will be talked about in this webcast, then you are free to sign, but we do not want to see students make a rushed decision. There could be financial ramifications when making a quick decision about signing a lease, which we will get into later. If you are thinking about staying in your country, going to another university, or perhaps doing an internship, then these are all examples of why you shouldn't sign a lease right away. If there is any uncertainty, do not sign. There is plenty of housing available at Illinois State University that you should not feel pressured to sign a lease. The main pieces in the apartment search process are roommates, cost, and location. All of these components are important and impact your housing decision. These continue to be the top priorities we hear from students when looking for off-campus housing. Let's now go through each one in more detail. Choosing compatible roommates is one of the most important aspects in finding housing that is right for you. Do schedules line up well? For example, are they a morning person or are they a student who likes to stay up late? Certainly the level of cleanliness wanted for a roommate is important. There is a lot more space in an off-campus apartment compared to a residence hall room. You will now have a kitchen and living room and perhaps different cleanliness expectations. You should talk about those expectations for sharing food, dishes, the temperature of the apartment, and having overnight guests. We also recommend that you discuss finances with potential roommates in order to ensure that they can afford the housing options you are looking into. It is essential to have many of these important conversations with your roommates before you sign a lease, as to prepare yourselves for living together. When it comes to roommate expectations, we recommend that you have a discussion with potential roommates in order to reduce the chance of roommate conflicts arising if you do choose to live with them. The cleanliness of common spaces, how you will handle overnight guests, and making sure each person can pay rent on time should be discussed. Having those conversations is extremely important and will help maintain open communication amongst your roommates. Paying rent is a very important financial concern, and it is crucial that you and your roommates can afford the housing option you are looking into. A specific lease we will talk about later, called a joint lease, could require you to pay your roommates rent if they can't, so be sure to know their financial situation ahead of time. Whether you knew your roommate before you lived together, or if they were a random roommate conflicts are inevitable. In residence hall, when a conflict arises, you could go to a housing staff or resident assistant for help in mediating the situation. When you live off campus, you do not have that type of support for resolving conflict. Talking through a conflict can be productive and positive, but only if both parties express their feelings and needs in a constructive way. Handling a conflict can reduce anxiety and prevent escalation of a conflict. The leasing company does not have the same role as a resident assistant and will not help mediate any roommate conflicts. We tell students that a person might be a really good friend, but their lifestyle could be incompatible when living together. These are all important reasons to get to know prospective roommates' lifestyles before you sign a lease together. As international students, if you are looking for roommates who are also international students, you can post on the ISU International Student Facebook page. If you are ever struggling to find a roommate, contact Off-Campus Services at 309-438-7346 or email Leadership and Community Connections in order to get connected with people that can assist you in locating resources to find roommates. Also, you can use the ISU Off-Campus Housing Database, which will also be discussed later in this webcast. Budget is an important part of leasing in the off-campus housing process. The typical apartments off-campus will range anywhere from $350 to $950 per month. This is quite a range, and we encourage students to make well-thought-out financial decisions. It may be really luxurious to live in an apartment that costs $1,000 a month, but is at a cost you are willing to pay. Take into account any other monthly costs that you are responsible for and ensure that you will have enough money to cover all of your bills. It is important to know what you can afford per month before signing a lease. Please note that international students are not eligible for financial aid, but the university has scholarship information on the International Studies website which details funding opportunities you might be eligible for. There is also a partial tuition waiver that is offered through Office of International Studies and Programs website. Another thing to think about while budgeting is what utilities and additional expenses will you incur each month. Utilities are things such as heat, electricity, and internet cable packages. While many apartments are all-inclusive, they may have a utility cap. A utility cap means that utilities are included in the rent as long as you do not exceed the cap found in your lease. For example, if the water bill cap is $100 and you exceed this, you would then have to pay any amount that you exceed over $100. If you and your roommates are responsible for your utility usage, such as turning off lights, having it heat at the reasonable temperature, not always taking long showers, etc., this should not be a problem. However, some apartments are not all-inclusive, which means you will have to pay rent and additional money for utilities, such as water, gas, electric, and internet. Each lease is different, so it is very important that you know what your total monthly costs will be. Another component that students are most concerned about is location. Many apartment complexes are in walking distance from campus. There are several apartment complexes that are a little farther away from campus if distance is not a concern for you. As international students, most of you will not have access to driving a car. If you choose to live further away from campus, you do have access to the Connect Transit bus system, which runs through Bloomington Normal. You can use this bus system for free with your Redbird student ID. If you are considering living further from campus, check out Connect Transit's website to see if the bus runs in that area. If you are considering living closer to campus, please be aware that it tends to be louder the closer to campus you get. While this is not always the case, it is important that you are compatible with the neighborhood you choose to live in. A great tool that Illinois State University offers is the Off-Campus Housing Database. This is an excellent resource for international students and a centralized listing of off-campus housing available in the Bloomington Normal area. This website makes it very easy for you to search for apartments, townhomes, or house listings, sublease postings, or search for a roommate. Students will be prompted to log in with their ISU login and password. Once you are admitted as an ISU student, you will receive an email on how to set up your university ID. Therefore, you cannot fully use this website until you are accepted at Illinois State University. The Off-Campus Housing Database is very accessible and has many features that makes the apartment search process easier. While researching possible apartment options, we encourage you to identify multiple units that you are interested in. Oftentimes, there will be pictures of the apartments online, and you can always ask to have pictures of the actual unit you will be living in. Make sure you know what criteria you want in an apartment, and perhaps make a list of things that are most important to you to make the decision-making process a little bit easier. We recommend having at least 3 to 5 apartments you and your roommates are interested in and contacting the leasing companies beforehand to view pictures. If you are unable to see your apartment before coming to Illinois State University, make sure to call the leasing company and ask for more thorough information about the apartment and the lease before you sign. The Town of Normal Police Department has a crime map that you can access on their website that shows crime rates over the past few years. While crime at and around Illinois State University is relatively low, this is a resource you can use if you wish. Student housing is mostly on Section 12 of the map, and you can always call the Normal Police non-emergency number for more information. Illinois State University and Bloomington Normal is a relatively safe area to live in with low theft and robbery numbers. As discussed before, this is a picture of what the off-campus housing database looks like. The link is found on the page. Another important part of your off-campus housing search is safety. When considering safety, you can always ask the landlord if there have been past crimes or issues in that building or area. As an international student, make sure to ask the leasing company about lighting information around the apartment, especially if you have night classes. Also ask if doors have peepholes and locks, windows and screens shut properly, and if the building is secure. This is important to students as older buildings are usually less secure than newer buildings. If you are planning on securing off-campus housing before you arrive at Illinois State University, making sure to ask thorough questions about safety can help you feel better about your decision. Last, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, and carbon monoxide detectors are required at every apartment. If you find that you have any issues with this, just contact the leasing company and they should be able to provide you with assistance. After you make a decision on an apartment, your next step is securing the apartment through a security deposit. We see quite a range on security deposits, so it is important to know the amount you will be paying. Typically, security deposits will be as low as $50 or as high as $800. The security deposit stands as protection for the landlord if you do not pay rent or when you are looking to move out and there would be any damages. Students may also be required to pay an application fee. If so, this application fee is non-refundable. A security deposit is refundable based on the state of the apartment when the student moves out. The application fee is a part of the paperwork processing required by the company. You may also be required to start paying on your apartment before you even move in. Again, you will want to speak with your leasing company in order to know their specific procedures. Your final step before having an apartment is signing the lease. This is a legally binding document. Once you sign the lease, you cannot get out of it. A lease is a legal document, and if you change your mind once signed, even if it's the next day, you will not be able to unsign the lease. This is something we want students to understand before they sign, so that way they are not in any financial responsibility if they decide to not come to Illinois State University. There are 2 different types of leases. An individual lease is when you are only responsible for yourself. So that means if you have a 3-bedroom apartment and rent is $600 per month, that each student will pay $600 per month. But if one of your roommates does not pay their rent for that month, the leasing company will only work with that one roommate. You will not have to pay any more money. Your rent is still going to be $600 a month. You are only responsible for yourself. More and more leasing companies are starting to have individual leases. Our office recommends individual leases because they protect you and your finances the most. A joint lease means that each roommate is jointly responsible for each other. So, in the same scenario where rent is $600 for a 3-bedroom apartment and one of your roommates does not pay, the landlord is going to first contact that person, and then they're going to contact you all if that person does not pay their rent. The realty companies have the legal right to approach you and your other roommates and say the rent for your apartment is not being paid. If your roommate is still refusing to pay because it is a joint lease, you and your roommates are now responsible with coming up with an additional $600 on top of the rent you are already paying. A number of companies also require co-signers. A cosigner is usually a parent or guardian who will also sign your lease. For example, if you are unable to pay rent but have a cosigner, the cosigner would then be in charge of paying the unpaid rent. If you are in a scenario as an international student where you cannot get a parent to sign your lease, email our office, Leadership and Community Connections, and we will assist you in finding a company that does not require a cosigner. If you sign a lease and decide not to come to Illinois State University, you will want to find a subleaser. A subleaser is someone who takes over your lease, moves into your apartment, and pays the rent for the remainder of the lease. The off-campus housing database has a spot for students to post their apartment if they need a subleaser. We also recommend staying in close contact with your potential roommates. Be honest and truthful throughout your registration process and about how committed you are to coming to Illinois State University. You do not want to be stuck with a lease and then realize your roommates never signed their part of the lease. If possible, sign at the same time so you're receiving all of the same information from the leasing company. Illinois State University has a student's attorney, and his name is Ed McKibben. Ed reviews upwards of 200 leases per year and provides free legal advice to students. If you have any questions regarding your lease, we highly encourage you to get in contact with Ed, and as his information is posted on the screen. A main component when moving into a new apartment is making sure to do a walkthrough with your landlord or someone from the leasing company. They will likely have a form to document the condition of the apartment upon moving in. Use this form and walk through with your landlord to document if there is any damage. In addition, take pictures of any specific damages that the landlord said you would not be held responsible for. This is all excessive and you might not want to do it, but it will help keep you safe when you move out at the end of your lease. This is protecting you from excessive charges. This way, you will know what needs to be repaired when moving in and have proof of previous damages when moving out, so you will not be charged. Certainly, throughout the year, there could be damages such as a dishwasher that is leaking or a closet door that is broken. Make sure to tell your landlord or leasing company right away if this occurs. Some companies have online forms to fill out if there are damages. Make sure to know the website or phone number of the maintenance or landlord of your apartment complex. Keep a log of these phone numbers and emails you send out if damages occur. This is just in case there are any unresponsive issues. If there are issues that you feel your landlord or leasing company is being unresponsive about, contact the Town of Normal Inspections or the Dean of Students office. Make sure to keep your apartment in good condition to assure that you get the majority of your security deposit back. As a potential future international student, we want to stress that you will now be a community member of the Town of Normal. There are still expectations as an off-campus student that you will need to follow that may be different from what you are used to. Monitor your noise levels to respect your neighbors. If you are going to host a party, Illinois State University has resources on how to host your party correctly in order to be safe and not get the police involved. We aren't telling you to not host parties, we just want to make sure that you are respectful and that you won't disrupt the normal community. Here are a few key ordinances or laws that impact students. As an international student studying in the United States, you will have to abide by these laws. You might be used to being allowed to drink alcohol when you are 18 years old, but then in the United States you must be 21 years or older. If you are of age, be aware of fines associated with alcohol. We have a keg registration process in Normal. If you want to register a keg, you must be over the age of 21 and will have to fill out paperwork to obtain the keg. The unlawful sale of alcohol means you cannot sell alcohol you already bought to another person, even if they are of age. For example, you cannot charge $5 for a cup to fill up beer for students at a party. These are also ordinances or fines for fighting, using an unlawful sound device, or having upholstered furniture outdoors. The sound device ordinance, for example, would be if you are hosting a party and have very loud music. Make sure the noise level at your apartment is at a reasonable amount at all times. Last, parking bans may be in effect during snowy weather. If you have to park on the street at your apartment, know where you can park when there is snowy weather. If there is a parking ban and you have to move your car on the street, the Town of Normal will be allowed to tow your car in order to clear the roads. That's why it is very important to know about this. Finally, when moving out of an apartment, we encourage students to clean, clean, clean. You will want to leave your apartment in the best condition when moving out, maybe even in better condition than when you moved in. Make sure to look back at that checklist you created when you moved into your apartment. Look at it again and document the condition and if anything has changed. Make sure your landlord or the rental company signs this checklist before moving out. It is really important for you to do this. You may be busy getting prepared for summer break or taking final exams, but make sure to take the time to make your apartment in great condition before moving out. Make sure to take any pictures or videos of the apartment as you see necessary in order to document damages that have occurred. This is all to keep you safe from extra charges you do not feel you should receive. If you do not get your full security deposit back, you are legally obligated to receive the list of charges. If there were any charges you do not feel you should have received, make sure to call your landlord. If you continue to have concerns about this, make sure to contact the student's attorney at Illinois State University for assistance. He is always available to help you. We have reached the end of this presentation. This is our departmental contact information. If you have additional comments about off-campus housing, make sure to email the Leadership and Community Connections Unit or call our phone number. Our student's attorney's name is Ed McKibben, and his contact information is also shown. Also, always feel free to walk into the Dean of Students' office if you have any additional questions or concerns when you are at Illinois State University. We also have more information about off-campus housing on the Dean of Students' website and on our off-campus housing database. I want to thank you very much for listening to this webcast, and please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any concerns. Thank you, and go Redbirds.